working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Hello and welcome to ASEAN in Focus. I'm Alma Angeles and we're coming to you live from Manila and Indonesia. Hello, December.
Hello, Alma. I'm December Paras of EBC Indonesia Bureau, bringing you the news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines. The Myanmar junta has released thousands of jailed anti-coup protesters.
The first international travelers for a quarantine-free scheme will touch down in the holiday hotspot of Phuket as Thailand tries to reboot its depleted tourism industry despite enduring its worst virus outbreak.
Here in the country, the Philippine National Police has placed all of its units in the CALABARZON region on alert to assist in the possible evacuation of residents near and in the surrounding areas of Taal Volcano, which continues to emit sulfur dioxide.
Okay, I started taking drugs when I was 13. Went into prison.
A reform gang member points out what were once opium dens and brothels on a tour of Singapore's financial district that explores the city-state seedy gangland past.
Enough money to bring their families over to have a better life.
First, the Myanmar junta has released thousands of jailed anti-coup protesters. Critics of the regime and journalists were among those released, but thousands remain in detention. Here's EBC's Faye Barte, who's monitoring the situation from our Thailand bureau. Hello, Faye.
Hello, Alma. Good afternoon to you and to all our viewers. Myanmar authorities released more than 2,000 anti-coup protesters from prisons across the country on Wednesday. A crowd of at least 200 people had gathered outside the colonial-era insane prison in Yangon from the morning after authorities announced the amnesty. Let's listen to them.
သတင်းမီဒီယာဥပဒေကိုဆန့်ကျင်ပြီးတော့ကျွန်တော်ချုပ်ထောင်ထားခြင်းဖြစ်တယ်။ထောင်ထဲမှာစစ်တပ်ရောက်ခြင်းကတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲတပ်ဖွဲ့ဝင်တွေနှိမ့်မနှိမ့်ဆက်တာပြီးတော့မရှိဘူး။သို့တော့နောက်ပိုင်းမှာကျွန်တော်ထောင်အာဏာပိုင်တွေရဲ့လူ့ခွင့်ချိုးဖောက်မှုတွေကြောင့်ကျွန်တော်တို့က complaint တက်တဲ့အခါမျိုးပါလို့ကျွန်တော်တို့ချင်းချောက်တာတွေနှိမ့်ဆက်တာမျိုးတွေအများကြီးရှိတယ်။နိုင်ငံရေးအကျဉ်းသားတွေပါလို့ကျွန်တော်သတင်းမီဒီယာသမားတွေပါလို့ကျွန်တော်ထောင်အာဏာပိုင်တွေကချင်းချောက်ခံရတယ်။
They included local journalists who were jailed after reporting critically on the junta's bloody crackdown. After authorities announced their release, a crowd of at least 200 people gathered outside the colonial-era insane prison in Yangon, hoping a loved one might be released. By the evening, of total of 2,296 protesters had been released from prisons around the country, the junta's information team said in a statement. As buses pulled out of Insane to take detainees to local police stations where they were due to be released, those on board flashed the three-finger salute, a popular protest symbol, through the windows. Local media published images it said showed trucks pulling out of the northern town of Mikitiana, also carrying detainees. Journalist Kaizon Niao of Myanmar now was among those freed from Insane. The news outlet said in a statement. She said she had experienced many things in the notorious jail, but added that she would explain later. Now United States journalist Danny Fenster is being held at the same prison after being detained on May 24. There were no foreigners among those released from Insane on Wednesday, a prison official told AFP on condition of anonymity. Yem Yo Kant, a 20-year-old photojournalist for the Myanmar Press Agency, was freed Wednesday after a 120-day detention. In February, the junta released around 23,000 prisoners with some rights groups at the time fearing the move was to free up space for opponents of the military as well as to cause chaos in communities. The advocacy group Assistance Association for Political Prisoners Burma warned the release of prisoners was an attempt by the junta to signal that it was relaxing its repressive rule. This is not the case, the group said. I quote, "In fact, the junta is making space for even more detainees and even more torture victims. The people who remain in prison will be tortured more severely than those released," end of quote. It warned that the military's relentless campaign of fear against Burmese people was continuing. A total of 6,421 people have been detained since the coup, and according to AAPP, which has been tracking arrests and detentions, this includes peaceful opponents of the junta, from elected politicians to medics, protesters, social media celebrities, and journalists. At least 883 protesters have been killed by the junta since February, according to AAPP estimates. This includes dozens of children. And on Wednesday, the military issued another threat against journalists, warning reporters not to use the term military junta to refer to the regime. It also instructed media not to quote and exaggerate the false news, warning that action will be taken against them under the existing laws. Back to you, Alma.
Yes. Yes, can you update us on how about former leader Aung San Suu Kyi? What is her situation now?
The situation of ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi, Alma, has been under house arrest since the coup, and this has been started in February. And she asked the people of Myanmar to stay united in the face of military rule. This was according to her lawyers, relayed to the people to stay as she reappeared in a junta court. And on Tuesday's court session was about the sedition charge, which is punishable with up to 2 years in prison if the defendant is found guilty of triggering an offense against the state or public tranquility. A local Naypyidaw official had used Facebook posts from the public page of Suu Kyi's party as evidence supporting the sedition charge. But Suu Kyi's lawyers raised an objection to that testimony, noting that all party central executive committee members had already been arrested before the statements were posted. The defense lawyer handling the sedition case, San Mar La Nguyen, said the prosecution witness's testimony was not in accordance with the law. And Alma, the court denied the motion to disqualify the testimony, but said it would allow the issue to be referred to the High Court and would suspend testimony until a ruling is issued. And ousted President Win Myint and the former mayor of Naypyidaw, Myo Aung Suu Kyi's political allies, are co-defendants in the sedition charge. Suu Kyi, who is 76, has been hit with an eclectic ralph of charges. She could face more than a decade in prison if convicted on all counts. Back to you, Alma.
All right. And Faye, also, do you have an update on the coronavirus situation in Myanmar?
The coronavirus updates in Myanmar, according to Google News, from June 16 to June 29, there has been a total of 9,646 cases, and the deaths that were reported is 72. And another update, Alma, from the graphics.reuters.com, that they record at least 1,050 new infections each day, and it could be 70% of the peak. And there had been 157,277 infections, the total accumulated cases from since the pandemic began. And there could be 3,334 coronavirus-related deaths that has been reported also. Now, the vaccination rollout, the updates about the vaccination rollout in Myanmar, we haven't gathered the exact statistics for this, but Myanmar has administered at least 2,994,900 doses of COVID vaccine so far. And assuming this could be the doses of COVID vaccines, there could be 2.8% of the country's population that has already been vaccinated. Back to you, Alma.
All right. Thank you very much for all that update, and you stay safe. Looking forward to more updates from Myanmar as you monitor there from Thailand. Thank you very much, Faye, for your time.
Thank you also, Alma. You keep safe there also in the Philippines. This is Faye Barter reporting live from ASEAN Bureau. We live in interesting times.
Cambodia just recorded the highest ever daily COVID cases and deaths. We have more from Eagle News correspondent Crystal Ann Ballesteros. Hello, Crystal.
Hi, December. Good afternoon, and you are right. Cambodia on Wednesday, June 30, reported the highest ever COVID-19 cases and deaths since the pandemic hit the kingdom in January last year, the Ministry of Health said in a statement. The Southeast Asian nation confirmed 1,130 new COVID-19 cases, pushing the national caseload to 50,385. The ministry said, adding that Wednesday figure topped the previous highest daily record of 938 cases on May 3. A total of 27 new fatalities were registered, taking the overall death toll to 602 so far. The ministry said, adding that Wednesday's death toll surpassed the highest daily record of 20 deaths on June 19. The ministry said some 670 patients recovered, bringing the total number of recoveries in the kingdom to 44,143. Ministry of Health Secretary of State and spokeswoman Aung San Suu Kyi renewed her call on the people to continue caution to avoid another lockdown. Quote, "We are now at the red line for COVID-19 virus transmission in the country," she said in a tweet, adding everyone must act responsibly together in order to suppress virus transmission. Cambodia began a COVID-19 vaccination drive on February 10, with China being the key vaccine supplier. As of June 29, some 7.9 million vaccines had been administered in the kingdom, with 4.1 million people receiving their first dose and 2.99 million having completed the 2-dose inoculation, Van Din said. The kingdom has planned to inoculate at least 10 million of its 16 million populations by the end of this year. According to Khmer Times, Dr. Aung San Suu Kyi, Health Ministry spokeswoman and chairwoman of the COVID-19 Vaccination Committee, has emphasized that Cambodia is at a red line status. And if that line is passed, the country may re-enter lockdown status. Although Phnom Penh has undergone a massive vaccination campaign, there are fears of the spread of COVID-19 in the unvaccinated provinces. Cambodia's rise in cases comes as the neighboring countries of Vietnam and Thailand report massive surges in COVID-19 cases. Back to you, December.
Thank you for that update, Crystal Ann, and please do stay safe in Cambodia.
Likewise, December, reporting live in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, I am Crystal Ann Ballesteros, and we live in interesting times.
Now let's get out of the ASEAN bloc for a little while and go to the beautiful island nation of Maldives, where it will open its borders for its Southeast Asian neighbors from July 15. And the Ministry of Tourism in Male said that the only prerequisite will be to have a negative RT-PCR test. We have more from our EBC correspondent there, Steffi Dewan. Hello, Steffi.
Hello, Alma. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, that is correct. Maldives has decided to ease travel restrictions imposed on South Asian travelers, allowing work permit holders from the region to travel to the country under special guidelines. The decision was announced by President Ibrahim Mohamed Solih in a press conference last Tuesday. President Solih said that special guidelines to allow for South Asian work permit holders to enter Maldives will be released in the beginning on July. He added that they will subject to mandatory quarantine. Maldives imposed the ban on South Asian work permit holders last on May 9, following a surge in COVID-19 cases in the region, fueled by the highly contagious Delta variant first discovered in India. Restrictions were further Restrictions were further tightened with a decision to suspend issuance of on-arrival visa to South Asian travelers on May 13. At Tuesday press conference, President said that authorities' plans on reopening Maldives borders for South Asian tourists on July 15. He said that authorities will review the COVID-19 situation in South Asian region within the next 1 week, and that the decision depends on the result of the review. Maldives experienced an alarming surge in COVID-19 cases last May and recorded the highest number of COVID-19 fatalities in a single month with 88 deaths. And that's my quick update from Maldives. Back to you, Alma.
Oh, hopefully we can go there soon. Such a very beautiful island nation. Thank you very much for your update, Steffi, and you stay safe.
Yes, Alma, I am waiting for you here. So thank you so much. Reporting live from Maldives. This is Steffi Di Juan, and we live in interesting times.
The government prepares to celebrate the country's reopening to foreign tourists this week. Phuket is a pilot program for the reboot of a tourism industry. Esther Odanga reports. Hello, Esther.
Hello, good afternoon, December, and you are right. Thailand prepared Wednesday to reopen the holiday hotspot of Phuket to tourists quarantine-free, even as the country registered its highest single-day death toll from COVID-19. To prepare for the reopening, 2/3 of Phuket's population have been inoculated, but there will be restrictions in place for those choosing Phuket for their holiday. Let's listen in.
To stay in Phuket for 14 days, that is one of the restrictions that can make people travel less, and also to make sure that all the tourists are still safe. So we must check COVID during their stays. We must check for 3 times. Right. That is quite a lot and quite costly. So that's the major restriction. There are hotels that have been under closure for over a year. I think 85 up to 90% of those hotels. There are only 10% hotels that can be still up and running.
High hopes have been pinned on the so-called Phuket sandbox, a model that will allow vaccinated travelers to visit without a quarantine period in an effort to revive Thailand's battered tourism industry. But the lead-up to its July 1 launch has been plagued with uncertainty amid delays to government approval. Thailand has been trying to contain a third wave of the coronavirus by imposing restrictions in the capital Bangkok and its suburbs, which have seen the Alpha and Delta variants spreading. Wednesday saw the kingdom's highest single-day death toll yet of 53. However, authorities say Phuket sandbox will go ahead as planned. About 250 passengers are scheduled to land on the island Thursday on 4 flights, according to COVID-19 Task Force spokesman Tawisin Wissanuyotin. The return of tourists will bring welcome relief for businesses. Thailand usually welcomes about 40 million tourists every year, and about 18% of country's GDP comes from the sector. But for over a year, Phuket's pristine sandy beaches have been unusually quiet, and more than 80% of hotels have been shuttered. As said earlier, visitors will have to stay on the island for 14 days if they wish to travel elsewhere in Thailand, and they must take 3 COVID tests during that period. The number of COVID-19 cases in Phuket also cannot exceed 90 in 1 week. Back to you, December.
Thank you for that update, Esther. We hope we can visit Phuket soon, and stay safe there.
Likewise, December, hoping to see you here soon too. Reporting live from Thailand, this is Esther Odanga. We live in interesting times.
Now, back here in the country, out of the 8.4 million doses of COVID vaccines administered as of June 20, no hospitalization and deaths due to COVID-19 were observed after more than 14 days of getting the second dose, and only 6.6% reported reactions. That is according to the Food and Drug Administration. Preliminary data presented by FDA Director General Eric Domingo showed that some COVID-19 infections occurring after vaccination were recorded after more than 14 days from the second inoculation, but all were mild cases. In a news release, the FDA said Sinovac, with 1.6 million individuals completing the 2 doses, recorded 33 infections. AstraZeneca, with 428,000 individuals vaccinated with the full dose, recorded 1 infection. Pfizer had 1 infection after 82,000 individuals were vaccinated with 2 doses. Now, there were no recorded infections in Sputnik V among the 14,000 individuals who received the full dose. The performance of COVID-19 vaccines in the country, as initially reported by the FDA, supports the results of the clinical trials and real-world data reported by several countries that vaccines prevent hospitalizations and deaths. Health experts locally and abroad have reiterated the importance of getting vaccinated as an additional layer of protection against the coronavirus.
In Ho Chi Minh City, businesses are being asked to test their employees for COVID-19 amid rising cases of infections. Joining us live is Micah Gwinnett Apostol. Hello, Micah.
Hello, December. Here's the latest update from VN Express International. Ho Chi Minh City is now motivating its businesses to perform fast COVID-19 tests on their employees weekly in the middle of the ascending coronavirus fears. According to the Municipal People's Committee, businesses would pay for the tests themselves. The list of firms determined to adopt the measure would be settled by the High-Tech Park Management Board before July 4. In addition, the move is part of the city's attempt to combat the coronavirus until July 10. Apart from the rapid COVID-19 tests, the city would also build up testing and screening in industrial parks and high-tech areas. In the course of COVID-19, results could be returned within 12 hours. Precise testing would also be performed in quarantine zones and other lockdown areas. Requested by the Ho Chi Minh People's Committee to its medical workers to determine lockdown areas. Immediately following the detection of coronavirus positive cases, relevant authorities in charge of securing COVID-19 vaccine sources should also speed things up to make sure 2/3 of the city's population could be vaccinated this year. The southern city is experiencing its toughest COVID-19 case yet, recording high numbers of infections for numerous days consecutively. Bountiful community transmissions have not been successfully traced back to their sources. So far, Ho Chi Minh City has recorded 3,998 local COVID-19 cases in Vietnam's 4th coronavirus wave since late April, second only to Bac Giang with 5,703. Back to you, December.
Thank you for that update, Micah, and stay safe in Ho Chi Minh.
Likewise, stay safe too. December, reporting live from Da Nang, Vietnam. This is Micah Gwinnett Apostol. We live in interesting times.
And staying in Vietnam, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh asked AstraZeneca to create favorable conditions for Vietnam to secure at least 10 million vaccine doses by early August. The Prime Minister made the request at his reception for Nitin Kapoor, President for Asia Area Frontier Market at AstraZeneca and Chairman and General Director of AstraZeneca Vietnam on June 29. Pham called on AstraZeneca to collaborate closely with and assist Vietnam in vaccine production in the Southeast Southeast Asian country and reduce vaccine prices. Kapoor spoke highly of the Vietnamese government's efforts in realizing its vaccine strategy to protect the public's health and revive the economy. He also said the world is facing a shortage of COVID vaccine supply since the pandemic is evolving complicatedly and unpredictably, while the global vaccine production capacity remains modest. Kapoor promised to persuade the parent company to deliver 8 million doses from now to early August and consider best possible vaccine prices to Vietnam. AstraZeneca will help Vietnam manufacture vaccine and increase investment in production of medicine for cancer, cardiovascular, intestinal diseases in Vietnam. And so far, Vietnam, which has so far received about 4.4 million doses of COVID vaccines, has relied heavily on the AstraZeneca brand for its inoculation program, which started in March. Its vaccines have come via donations, the COVAX vaccine sharing scheme, and government procurements. The government expects to acquire 150 million vaccines to cover 70% of its population this year.
The Ministry of Health confirmed 189 new community infection cases of COVID-19 on Thursday morning, bringing the national patient tally to 17,052. The latest infections are residents in Ho Chi Minh City, 158, Thiên Giang, 16, Phu Quien, 8, Hang Yen, 6, and Vinh Long, 1. 188 were detected in quarantine camps and lockdown areas. Among the national caseload, 13,684 are community infections documented in 50 cities and provinces since the fourth COVID-19 wave began on April 27.
Now, people are queuing at an oxygen station in Indonesian capital Jakarta as cases spike in the Southeast Asian country. Indonesia passed 2 million official virus cases recently. Take a look.
Nah, untuk travel kesulitan. Sekarang tadi pagi kan saya ngambil tabungnya, mau coba di Pramuka penuh. Belum buka tapi tulisannya oksigen kosong. Tadi lewat di Lenteng Agung karena saya tinggal di Depok, oksigen juga kosong. Beneran nih saya mau ke Pramuka lagi. Tapi di sini ada orang antri nih, alhamdulillah nih. Alhamdulillah nih ngeliat gini. Mudah-mudahan dapat.
Rumah sakit juga akhirnya isolasi mandiri di rumah dan membutuhkan oksigen juga, makanya kita sedang mencari oksigen gitu Pak. Berapa hari mencari? Sini kurang lebih 3 harian sini udah mencari oksigen. Ya. Belum. Hari ini kita lagi coba lagi untuk antri. Mudah-mudahan hari ini dapat.
Now, Indonesia set a new record for daily coronavirus cases on Sunday with more than 21,000 as hospitals are flooded with patients in Jakarta and other COVID hotspots across the Southeast Asia's hardest hit nation. But the real number is believed to be much higher due to low testing rates for the deadly respiratory illness. Indonesia's COVID case rates have soared in recent weeks after millions traveled at the end of the Muslim fasting month of Ramadan in May. And as authorities identify the presence of the highly infectious newer virus strains, fears are also growing that Indonesia's creaky health system could collapse, and there are reports of some overflowing hospitals being forced to turn patients away. Hospitals in the hard-hit capital Jakarta, as well as West and Central Java, have been flooded with patients, including those infected with a highly transmissible Delta variant, first identified in India. And thousands of people gathered at a vaccination center in the Indonesian city of Tangerang on Tuesday, though many had not registered in advance and were blocked from entering the center. Take a look.
Pak Jokowi, tolong kami. Dari sini, Bu. Dari sini, Bu. Ini bagaimana Pak Jokowi? Siapa?
terjadi karena masyarakat masih belum well informed nih, belum terinformasikan dengan jelas bahwa yang divaksinasi mereka yang sudah mendaftarkan diri. Pada pendaftaran itu sudah jelas ada waktu dan jamnya. Jadi yang tidak mendapatkan waktu dan jam agar menyesuaikan kehadirannya.
And the news continues here on ASEAN in Focus. December and I will be back right after this break.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights. Sharpen your instincts for smart decision-making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
The news continues in ASEAN in Focus. Indonesian rescuers were searching for 11 people still missing after a passenger ferry sank off the coast of Bali in rough seas, killing at least 7, authorities said on Wednesday. Dozens of survivors were plucked from the water on Tuesday evening after the KMP Unisi carrying 57 passengers and crew went down near Gilimanuk port at the western end of the holiday island.
Karena saya nggak mikir ini berapa lama, sudah nggak mikir.
Lama apa sebentar, Pak?
Agak lama. Agak lama. Saya terapung-apung sampai lama kok. Kalau miring itu kalau saya tadi itu agak keajaiban mungkin. Masih di dalam kapal, saya masih kesentuh apa-apa, terus saya sudah kena air banyak di dalam kapal. Terus kapalnya kena ombak. Kalau ke kiri, terus saya tegel ke atas.
Sama sekali yang merapat itu kan KMP Samudra ya, sama saya lupa satu lagi, itu yang menyelamatkan banyak, hampir 40 orang gitu loh. Tetapi memang ada juga yang tidak sempat tertolong ketika kapal sudah mulai tenggelam. Ada beberapa yang belum dipakai ya, tapi ada juga yang sudah terpakai karena terkunci, kemungkinan lepas juga, begitu. Nah hanya saja kita memang tidak menemukan orangnya. Tapi ada yang masih belum terkunci, ada yang sudah terkunci juga, begitu. Jadi kemungkinan ada yang sudah terpakai.
It had been traveling across a narrow strait from Java Island, but 11 people remained missing. On Wednesday, authorities confirmed that they had pulled 7 dead from the waters, updating an earlier toll. It was unclear what caused the accident, but marine accidents are common in Indonesia, an archipelago of more than 17,000 islands, where many use ferries and other boats to travel, despite poor safety standards. In 2018, about 160 people drowned when a ferry sank into the depths of one of the world's deepest lakes on Sumatra Island. And more than 300 people are estimated to have drowned in 2009 when a ferry sank between Sulawesi and Borneo.
In other news, the Philippines and Saudi Arabia underscored the need for greater cooperation to fight violent extremism as the two countries continue to find ways to intensify tie-ups. Now, during their meeting in Riyadh on June 23, Presidential Assistant on Foreign Affairs and Special Envoy to Saudi Arabia, Robert E. Borge, and Mansour al-Shamari, the Secretary General of the Global Center for Combating Extremist Ideology, or ETIDAL, recognized the necessity of sharing best practices in countering the threat posed by violent extremism. Among the concerns they discussed include the use of cyberspace and social media platforms to advance violence and violent ideologies. Now, Borge visited ETIDAL in Riyadh as part of the Duterte administration's thrust of working with other countries and organizations to fight terrorism and violent extremism. Mr. Borge also noted the possibility of triangular cooperation between the Philippines, Saudi Arabia, and multilateral organizations such as the United Nations, as well as the academe and research organizations. The Special Envoy's tour at Saudi Arabia's facility was part of a string of activities during his official visit to the kingdom from June 19 to the 24th.
In other news, higher petroleum products prices and power rates in areas serviced by the Manila Electric Company, or Meralco, are expected as upside risks to this month's inflation, which is projected to stay between 3.9 to 4.7%. In a Viber message to journalists on Wednesday, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, BSP Governor Benjamin Diokno said weaker peso during the month is also among the upside price pressures during the month. These factors are, however, seen to be countered by the decline in prices of key food items such as rice, meat, and fruits due to improved supply conditions, he said. The monthly rate of price increases has been steady at 4.5% from March to May this year, after surpassing the government's target band last January when it accelerated to 4.2%.
Meanwhile, Vietnam shook off a fresh outbreak of virus infections and containment measures to record strong economic growth in the second quarter, according to data showing on Tuesday, though there were warnings that the road ahead remained bumpy. The country has long been among the best performing economies in Asia and was one of the few in the world to expand last year after success in containing the worst of the virus. And the General Statistics Office reported it expanded 6.61% in April to June, slightly below forecasts in a Bloomberg News survey, but a big improvement on the previous 3 months, 4.65%. Now, for the first half of the year, it grew 5.64%, in line with government expectations. But Gareth Leather, senior Asia economist at Capital Economics, warned that looking past the jump in year-on-year growth due to a weak base for comparison, GDP data suggests that Vietnam is facing a heavy economic toll from its efforts to control the virus. Said with sporadic outbreaks continuing, the economy is likely to suffer further in the months ahead.
With 6 months left for 2021, several government agencies and business groups have signed a manifesto to generate 1 million jobs by the end of this year. At the closing ceremony of the 42nd National Conference of Employers on Wednesday, both the public and private sectors vowed to implement their tasks to recover 1 million jobs that were lost due to the impacts of the coronavirus disease and 2019 pandemic.
And here we are today, ready to launch and sign the partnership between employer sector and key government partners entitled Reform, Rebound, Recover 1 million jobs for 2021. Yes, you heard it right. We will endeavor to generate 1 million direct and indirect jobs. It will be a challenge, but it's doable.
We have highlighted in the manifesto the specific responsibilities that we will undertake to achieve our goal. In general, these responsibilities resonate with our objectives in the NURSE Task Force. These include creating a policy environment that encourages generation and improve access to employment, livelihood, and training opportunities, improving employability, wellness, and productivity of workers by taking advantage of the opportunities in the labor market under the new normal, and providing support to existing and emerging businesses to preserve and create employment. We acknowledge that this is a bold task given the prevailing circumstances. However, we are confident that under the able and strong leadership of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, and with the government and employers working together, we can deliver the creation of 1 million jobs for 2021. On behalf of the NURSE Task Force, we commit we commit also to delivering the deliverables from the government side and all the programs and policies that you were asking for.
Meanwhile, private sector's responsibilities include identifying job vacancies from its member companies, finding jobs for the qualified but unemployed, recommending specific improvements in the business environment to the NURSE Task Force, co-organizing job caravans, providing necessary assistance such as onboarding process, vaccination process, and reskilling and upskilling referrals in post-job caravans, and providing other support and monitoring mechanisms in the implementation of the project.
Now, migrant workers employed by a Malaysian palm oil giant have faced mistreatment ranging from physical abuse to poor living conditions, according to a rights group on Wednesday. Now, the 101 Corporation is the latest producer of the commodity to face such allegations. And it follows the United States banning imports from 2 other Malaysian palm oil firms over abuse claims. Now, the latest allegations come in a report by rights group FinWatch, which has for several years been documenting problems at the 101, a supplier to consumer goods giants, including Nestle and Unilever. The Finland-based group, which focuses on corporate responsibility, interviewed Indian workers at the palm oil estate in central Pahang State. Now, the workers complained accommodation was poor, with some forced to sleep on the floor as they weren't given beds, and toilets and kitchens in bad condition, according to the report. Workers were later given beds after FinWatch complained. Now, a staff member is alleged to have slapped workers. Some complained of paying hefty recruitment fees in breach of IOI's own policies, and they were not given copies of their employment contracts, according to the group. FinWatch said some problems had been rectified after they were raised, but the complaints highlighted gaps in the group's wider recruitment and wage policies. Palm oil is a common ingredient in items ranging from processed foods to cosmetic, with Malaysia and neighboring Indonesia producing 85% of the world's supply. But activists have long claimed that low-paid migrant workers on the plantations face abuse and also blame the industry for driving destruction of rainforests to make way for agricultural estates.
PNP, or the Philippine National Police, on Thursday has placed all of its units in the CALABARZON region on alert to assist in the possible evacuation of residents near and the surrounding areas of Taal Volcano, which continues to emit sulfur dioxide. In a statement, PNP Chief General Guillermo Alazar directed police offices and units to start coordinating with local government units to find out if there are residents in need of assistance due to the volcano's continuing state of unrest. The colorless gas with pungent odor and can irritate the eyes, throat, and respiratory tract in severity depending on the gas concentration and durations of exposure. Elazar also noted that the local police offices should also monitor developments on the volcano's activity aside from coordinating with local government unit officials to give assistance to affected residents. Alert Level 2 is hoisted over Taal Volcano, according to the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or PhilVox. Steam-driven or gas explosion or gas accumulation may occur under this level. On Wednesday, PhilVox, citing open satellite data information for volcanic, said plumes have actually spread over Batangas, Laguna, Cavite, Rizal, Bulacan, Pampanga, Bataan, Zambales, and National Capital Region. PhilVox also said the entire Taal Volcano Island should be off limits.
In other news, President Duterte is looking forward to visiting Sri Lanka when the coronavirus disease pandemic situation normalizes. Now, this was Duterte's response to the invitation of Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to visit his country in a phone call on Monday, according to a press statement from the office of the president. During the phone call, the two leaders renewed their shared commitment to further enhance cooperation as the two countries commemorate 60 years of diplomatic relations this year. The president also thanked the Sri Lankan government for its assistance in the repatriation of Filipinos amid the pandemic and for the safe return of Filipino seafarers in the Mount New Diamond that caught fire off the eastern coast of Sri Lanka back in September last year. Reports show that one Filipino crew member died in a boiler explosion, while another was injured after a fire broke out on the large oil tanker off the eastern coast of Sri Lanka. Now, Rajapaksa, for his part, extended his deepest appreciation for the cooperation and mutual support between Sri Lanka and the Philippines in multilateral venues, including at the United Nations Human Rights.
The Philippines has released a list of green countries and jurisdictions which refer to places whose COVID-19 vaccinations will qualify passengers to a short quarantine period upon arrival in the Philippines. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque named 57 countries and jurisdictions that will be given green lane policy for arriving passengers.
Naglabas ngayong araw at 30 ng Hunyo 2021 ang inyong IATF ng listahan na tinatawag na Green Countries at Jurisdictions. Kasama rito ang mga bansang Albania, American Samoa, Anguilla, Antigua, Barbuda, Australia, Benin, Belize, the British Virgin Islands, Brunei, Burkina Faso, Burundi, Cayman Islands, Chad, China, Côte d'Ivoire, Eswatini, Falkland Islands, French Polynesia, Gambia, Ghana, Greenland, Grenada, Hong Kong, Iceland, Isle of Man, Israel, Laos, Liberia, Malawi, Malta, Marshall Islands, Mauritius, Micronesia, Montserrat, Morocco, Mozambique, New Caledonia, New Zealand, Nigeria, Northern Mariana Islands, Palau, Rwanda, Sabah, St. Barthélemy, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Pierre and Miquelon, Sierra Leone, Senegal, Singapore, St. Eustatius, South Korea, Taiwan, Togo, Turks and Caicos Islands, UK, Vietnam at Zimbabwe. Napagdesisyonan din ng inyong IATF ng opsyon ng ipresenta ang Philippine Overseas Labor Office polo validations bilang proof of vaccination status ay exclusive lamang sa mga overseas Filipino workers. Magsisimulang tumanggap ang ating mga polo ng applications for validation simula July 5, 2021. Samantala, ang mga OFWs na makakapagpresenta ng international certificates of vaccination ay maaari nang makapag-avail ng green lanes simula bukas, July 1, 2021, provided na makakasunod sila sa mga requirements.
In other news here in the Philippines, consumers would have to pay more for cooking gas as firms welcome July with a big-time hike on prices of liquefied petroleum gas. Now, in separate advisories, Petron and Phoenix LPG Philippines Incorporated increased their LPG prices by 5 pesos and 20 centavos per kilogram, while Solane branded LPG went up by 5 pesos and 19 centavos per kilogram. The price movements translate to 57 pesos and 9 centavos to 57 pesos and 20 centavos price hike on a regular 11-kilogram LPG tank. Now, these reflect the international contract price of LPG for the month of July, according to Petron in a statement. Both Petron and Phoenix also increased auto LPG prices by 2 pesos and 90 centavos per liter. The price adjustments took effect on Thursday morning.
A reform gang member points out what were once opium dens and brothels on a tour of Singapore's financial district that explores the city-state seedy gangland past. Now known for its clockwork, orderliness, and having one of the world's lowest crime rates, the city-state was once a greedy port plagued by rival mobsters.
Okay, I started taking drugs when I was 13, went into prison for the first time at the age of 22. In total, I've been in prison 5 times, sentenced to approximately 20-odd years in prison, and I've also received 21 strokes of the cane. When secret societies or triads first started locally in the 1800s, it was more for survival than anything else. They came down from China into Singapore hoping to find job, to save enough money to bring their families over to have a better life. Okay. They had to join secret societies because if not, okay, chances of them getting bullied, getting robbed, getting killed is real. Okay. But when they do join a secret society, they have protection. All right. They felt a sense of belonging, okay? It was something that was needed. Compared to secret societies nowadays, it's more of, I guess, creating mischief and chaos, all right? Not out of a sense of need, for Singapore, I mean. So, although they are called secret society, believe you me, they are not very secret, okay? The police force knows about them, all right? I think the best term to describe them would be street corner gangs.
Raffles Place. I've seen all these buildings, I've walked past all these buildings, but I've actually never known all these buildings until my tour guide Bruce, he went through with us like what this used to be, which you would never imagine it used to be a brothel.
It wasn't the last shop before. It started in China, it was for a reason. And the reason was to overthrow the... People will rob you and kill you for $1.
Singapore's gangland history traces its roots to so-called secret societies formed by Chinese immigrants when they flocked to work in Singapore after it became a key British trading post in the 1800s. The massive influx from China swelled the city's population, and their descendants now form the bulk of its citizens. The groups played an important role by providing the army of newcomers with a social network, help to find jobs and protection. During Bruce's last stint in prison, which ended 5 years ago, the pain of being separated from his young daughter motivated him to quit drugs and leave his gang. He now works as a motivational speaker and helps lead the popular triad Trails tour to fight stereotypes about ex-offenders, an initiative partly organized by a non-profit group supporting former inmates.
Thank you, December, for keeping me company today.
My pleasure, Alma. I hope this is not the last time.
Of course not.
And that's the latest news in the ASEAN region. Thank you for joining us today. I'm December Paraz from Jakarta, Indonesia Bureau, and we live in interesting times.
I'll see you back next week. I'm Alma Angeles, and we'll see you back tomorrow. We live in interesting times.